Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another edition of the Mavpuckcast. Thank you for tuning in. Jon and I are here after a very rough weekend of hockey. Jon, how's your morning going?
Yeah, it was a rough weekend to be a UNO hockey fan. So that's crazy. And this is our sixth episode of the season. Normally, we do 20 episodes in a typical season. Last season was a little bit longer because of our postseason run in the NCHC playoffs and the NCAA tournament. So I feel like we should be like a third of the way through the season at this point, but the season has barely started, Jason. So it's crazy. First up, we'd like to thank our founding members for their support of the Mavpuckcast this season. As I am talking, you are seeing a scroll of those people who signed up during our special founding member promotion, which ran from April 1st of this year to October 1st. Their names will also appear at the end of each episode of the Mavpuckcast. And if you would like to support our efforts at mavpuck.com and here on the Mavpuckcast, be sure to visit mavpuck.com/donate for more information. But we got to turn to the series against Augustana. And this is one of those series, Jason, that kind of looked like a dangerous series going in. We know how these go. I think back a couple years when Niagara came to town, and we definitely were more talented than Niagara that year, but they came in and swept us at Baxter Arena. You just have to be careful this time of year. It's easy when you come off a great icebreaker championship against two really good teams in UMass and Minnesota to potentially overlook a team like Augustana.
Like you said, coming off the high of winning the icebreaker tournament, it's you almost wish that you had Denver or North Dakota or something that you knew that you still had to be at the top of your game, and it seemed like they just didn't have it. And I don't. It's got to be mental because we know the talent's there.
Absolutely right. First period Friday night, it was scoreless in the first. And as you mentioned, the Mavs had trouble getting going. It was 0-0 after one. And then that second period came along late in the second period at the 18:06 mark. Senior forward Zach Erdahl puts UNO up 1-0, assist to Noah Ellis. I mean, it was 1-0 after two. What did you think of our chances at that point, Jason, leading going into the third?
I don't know that it really changed it much for me. We were still kind of pushing play in the second, but their goaltender was playing well. And it kind of had that feeling that it's just one shot away from being, a tie game, one mental mistake, one goof up by someone, and you're just in a kind of dogfight. And so we really needed to keep the pedal to the metal and find a way to get that second goal. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do that by the end of the second, and we came out in the third. And Augustana, to their credit, played a lot better at the start of the third than they had in the first two periods. And then you get the disaster that came on the power play.
You're absolutely right about Augustana. Their transition game really started to click in that third period. They started getting more opportunities on the move. And you mentioned their goaltender, their sophomore goaltender, Josh Katai. He did really well this week, and he had done well in their previous two games and in that exhibition that they won against North Dakota 4-1. So he looks like he's going to be a good goaltender to watch this season for them. 6:33 into that third period, Augustana senior forward Luke Mobley gets a short-handed goal, ties it up for Augie. It was a bad neutral zone turnover for UNO, Jason.
Yeah, the challenge is when you're in that position, you're the last one back. So you've got to be more responsible for the puck and not take too many gambles. Just make the safe play. And you try to do a little bit too much for you. A good play on him to get the puck away, and then just a good shot. We recovered fairly well. We gave away what I thought was a low percentage shot, shorthanded, but It's a hard place with Simon being a full right goaltender. It's different because his stick's on the short side instead of his glove, and so he's got to play that side differently than what most goaltenders would. And he got beat flat out. Like it was just a good shot, beat Simon, and we're leveled up, but we're still in the power play. You're still hoping that all right, you find a way to get a power play goal on this, and you're back to a 1 goal lead.
Yeah, exactly right. Mobley was one of the players to watch in last week's episode of the Mavpuckcast. Cast. He was second on the team in points last season, and as you mentioned, it looked like we might have another overtime game on our hands since every game up until that point in the season had gone to overtime. But with 2:19 left in regulation, Augustana forward Callum Gal gets the game-winning goal, popped it in at the side of the net. It's 2-1. Augustana at that point, and as I mentioned, they go on to win 2-1. Only 2 power plays total in that Friday night game, and they were both UNOs, and we went 0 for 2 on the power play.
Spoiler alert for Saturday, but that's going to be the thing that kind of kills us is we've got to be better on the power play. If teams are going to give us opportunities, we can't go 0 for a weekend, and that's what we did.
Yeah, one of UNO's strengths last season was their special teams play, so we'll see how that evolves this season. Going into the Saturday night game, look, I was hopeful going into that Saturday game. I thought the Mavs would get back on track. I thought they might have been a little weary after that trip to Vegas. And they did have opportunities in the game, Jason. But 10:19 into the first period, Augustana sophomore forward Luke Mobley, again, who scored the shorthanded goal during that Friday game, gets awarded a penalty shot when Tanner Ludke hooks him at our net front.
Yeah, and he did what you need to do. You're given an opportunity like that, one-on-one with a goaltender, and you really, as a forward, especially as a leader on their team, you need to be the one to come through for him. And he did. And I think you can kind of sum up a lot of Omaha and Augustana's play, saying like when opportunity arose, Augustana buried the puck, and when Omaha got chances, they didn't. And that's just it's got to be better than that. Like it just has to, because I'm like you. I thought going into that game that we'd stand a pretty good chance of bouncing back. That they realized that Augustana is no slouch team. You got to put forth your best effort. And early on, we were kind of doing better. We were doing better at breaking down their box. We were better at getting pucks net front. And we had some really good opportunities, but, clean shots through that go wide, good opportunities in a slot that are shot off a crossbar or high. And credit Augustana too. They blocked a lot of shots in these games, and that really frustrated Omaha's offense.
Yeah, absolutely right. And like you mentioned, we did have a number of good opportunities during the game. The early part of that second period was when things kind of started to unravel for UNO. 59 seconds into the second period, Augustana's Quinn Rudrud put the Vikings up 2-0. And then a little over 90 seconds later, Brett Meerman, who was another one of our players to watch last week, puts Augustana up 3-0 on the power play. It's 3-0 at that point. And as we mentioned, Jason, things just never really came together for UNO in that game. So it was 3-0 after 2. Augustana added a 4th goal in that third period, and they go on to shut out the Mavericks 4-0 and sweep the series. This was Augustana, a program that just started playing hockey last season. This was their first road sweep in their program's short history.
Hate to be the backside of history, but here we sit. And we've talked about it in prior seasons, and I think we talked about it in the last podcast, kind of leading into this, is if you want to be a team that's going to make the NCAA tournament, you have to beat teams that are expected to be lower than you in the standings. And it just seems like UNO's always had those series early on in the season. They're trying to get stuff going. They're trying to find chemistry. They're trying to connect with guys and figure out kind of what that game is. if we don't make if we're close, if we're a bubble team and we don't make the tournament, I think everyone's got to look back to the series and say this is the point where they let it go. That if we had split with Augustana, we'd be in the tournament. When you start getting into that math of the pairwise, this is what it's going to come down to, and you can't go back. Like that's the hard thing for these guys is they can't look back and say, all right, well, we could have done this, or we could, like, they have to move forward and they have to say, okay, now we've got to steal something. We're going to need to maybe sweep Denver to give us the math that we need to get back into a ranking place in the pairwise to get a bid or something. Or this is just not our year. And everything that went well last year, this is a rebuild. We'll have to just kind of pause and wait for next year. And I really hope that that's not where UNO gets to. But they're going to need to win some games, and they're going to need to show that they can push back against this and get back to playing Omaha hockey and grind out some goals.
Absolutely right. Resiliency is going to be the key for this team. Something that I like to talk a lot about, meat and potatoes hockey, which is doing those fundamental things right. The team has to get back to doing that game in, game out, because these games early in the season, they can kind of lull you to sleep a little bit, but they are so important down the stretch. And that's the thing. We know that it's going to be up and down early in the season. It's not just the fact that we have 14 guys who are new to the UNO roster, but a lot of the veterans who've been here a couple seasons, some of them haven't gotten a lot of playing time. When you look at guys like Charlie Lurie, Cam Mitchell, etc., those guys haven't gotten an opportunity. So in many respects, they're like new guys on the roster too. So it's going to be an adventure, and credit where credit is due. Garrett Raboyne, their head coach at Augustana, he was an assistant with Bob Motzko at St. Cloud and at Minnesota. Very talented coach, talented recruiter. He's going to do good things at Augustana. And they were a scrappy, pesky team that just pestered us all weekend long. And you could tell that they wanted those games more. And they came in and played that way. Another sad stat I should throw in here: UNO went 0 for 5 on the power play on Saturday night, 0 for 7 on the weekend. This was the first time UNO had been shut out since October 28th of 2023, when Ohio State came to town. Final thoughts on the Augustana series, Jason?
Yeah, Augustana played well, and our beef isn't with like we should have beat them or we're better than them or anything like that. They came in knowing what they had to do. They had to play sound, responsible defense. They couldn't get lulled into some kind of open ice game, and basically just like, hey, let's hang on to a 0-0 tie and wait for opportunity. That's what they did Friday, and they got more of those opportunities on Saturday. They had more confidence on Saturday, and they came away with two well-earned wins. And UNO's now in a position of saying we've got to be that team. We've got to go in someplace and win games that maybe we're not expected. That's just kind of where we are. But I question a lot of the setup for Omaha, the lines that we have, and that like we got to find some chemistry between guys. We need lines that can produce game in, game out, be dangerous, and we need more than one line that can do that. And so far we haven't. It seems like what line's going to work tonight, and you just can't rely on that when you get into playing teams like Denver. Denver looks really, really good right now, like really good. They're coming off a national championship. They're not having that down season so far that other teams have after their championship. So you're looking at them saying that is the powerhouse in our conference, and they're going to wipe the floor with us if we don't figure this out.
Absolutely right. Some of our veteran players need to step up, take the team on their shoulders, and get them going here early in the season. So, Jason, I got to ask you, it's a tough week to do this. Who's your player of the week for UNO in that series that we just wrapped up against Augustana?
Yeah, we always talk about liking to go kind of off the score sheet, which is really easy to do this series because there's nothing really on the score sheet. So, I ended up coming up with two that I thought were pretty good, but I'm gonna stick with the one that really just kind of stood out to me. Sam Stang. Uh, I know he's not on the sheet, and a lot of people have, well, who is he if he's not scoring? But I'm telling you, that guy was every shift, all night, both games, played the same way, the same. He had different line mates on Saturday that he had on Sunday or on Friday, and he's still out there playing his game and being a resource for Omaha. He had some good chances. He's not your Tanner Ludke. He's not the guy that's going to be a flash and dash kind of, star prospect. But I relate him a lot to like Matt Miller, that we've seen, those kinds of just durable, reliable, game in, game out. You know what you're getting for him. We had a lot of those guys last year. And it's just nice I know you appreciate that style of hockey, but I do too. And so like I commend him for even in the down of Saturday's game, finding a way to still be aggressive on the puck, support his teammates and drive the net and get opportunities.
Absolutely right. You've been impressed with him, I know, early on this season, as have I. A great pickup for UNO. Got him in the transfer portal from Wisconsin. And I'm going to pick a little more obvious pick, but I'm going to pick his former high school and collegiate teammate at Wisconsin, forward Zach Erdahl. He currently leads the team in scoring. A very consistent scoring threat who's kind of picked up early this season where he left off last season, Jason.
That line was our best line on Saturday when they didn't get anything. And, I thought it was an opportunistic goal for him on Friday. And, that's what we talked about. That's what we need. We need guys that when they get their opportunities, they're going to bury it. And so hopefully he can continue that trend. But I know that was the one line that stayed together between the two games. And so sometimes I wonder if you might need to break that up and see if we can get the other guys on that line going.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they're going to be tinkering with lines early on this season. The roster, there was a definite shakeup between Friday and Saturday night against Augustana. Speaking of Augustana, when they played that exhibition game up at North Dakota that they won 4-1, Garrett Raboyne played 35 different line combinations. That was one of the things that he had mentioned in one of their midweek press conferences. So kind of interesting. It's going to be an adventure early on, but hopefully the team stays resilient, doesn't get down, and keeps things going because again, I know when fans start chirping, it can be rough, but it's early, so just got to find some chemistry and see if we can gel going forward. But turning to our next series, we head to Mankato, Minnesota to take on the Minnesota State Mankato Mavericks on October 25th and 6th at the Mayo Clinic HSEC. I got to tell you, Jason, the naming rights of some of these facilities today is just like, our arena convention center in downtown Omaha is now called the CHI Health Center. And living in Omaha, it just sounds like, one of our hospitals or medical facilities. So I'll tell you what, Friday's game is at 7:07 p.m. Central Time, and Saturday's game is at 6:07 p.m. Central Time. Mankato is 3-3 this season. They have played series at Michigan. They split that series. They played at home against Merrimack. They split that series. And this last weekend, they split against North Dakota in Mankato. They led the Friday game, which they ultimately lost 2-0 going into the third period. So this Mankato team has got some game. Head coach Luke Strand, he's in his second season with Mankato. He took over for Mike Hastings. Strand was an assistant with former UNO assistant Steve Rollick, who is the head coach at Ohio State. Looks like he's got things going up there in Mankato. Players to watch. Jason, this was a player you mentioned to me on Friday night. Junior forward Adam Isley, who is Seth Isley's brother. He's tied for first on the team in points with 2 goals and 3 assists. senior forward Rhett Pitlick. He transferred just a few weeks ago from Minnesota. He also has 2 goals and 3 assists on the season. He had 36 total points with the Gophers last season. And then on defense, keep an eye on freshman D-man Luke Ashton. He is 5th on the team in total points early here in the season, and he was taken 165th in the NHL entry draft by Columbus. And then in nets, goalie Alex Tracy, a junior, he has a 1.52 goals against average and a .935 save percentage. Jason, what do you think about Mankato on the road this upcoming weekend?
It's going to be a really tough series for us. They've got some good defensemen. You mentioned Ashton. They also have Jordan Power, a really good shutdown style defenseman. He's good with the stick. And then their goaltending. I mean, you can't go into this series expecting to get a ton of opportunities. So UNO is going to need to be efficient. They're going to need to capitalize when they get them, bury the puck. If they get power plays, we need to be 25-30% on the power play this weekend if we want to expect to come away with 2 wins. Otherwise, as they showed against North Dakota, like this is a team that is capable of beating the best teams in college hockey when they play their system and when they're sound and smart. And so, honestly, right now, I'm hoping more than anything else that they experience what we experienced. Maybe a little bit of we played so well against North Dakota, we can easily walk over Omaha and we can play the Augustana role and kind of sweep them out of their own building, but it's going to be tough to do that.
So, Jason, what is your prediction for this series? Do you think we'll sweep? Do you think we'll get swept? Do you think we'll split? What do you think will happen up there?
I would predict a split. I think they're going to be tight games. I think we're going to find a way to win one of them. Best guess. I have no idea if it's going to be Friday night or Saturday, right? Because they're just this team's like who shows up and who has a game, and if we get one guy that just decides like I need to make a statement or something, or coach jumbles the lines and finds something different that works. Yeah, I mean outside of that, like I couldn't easily or remotely predict which night we're going to win, but I think we find a way to get one of them. I just don't know that we have what it takes to steal both of them.
Yeah, I mean, the story for Mankato, as I mentioned, has been splits this season. So I'm predicting a split as well. And like you said, my big concerns are more special teams play for UNO this upcoming weekend and finding a way to get the puck in the back of the net. That's something we need to do. We need to get the scoring going because right now it's hard to figure out where that's going to come from. So should be a really good test, and it should be interesting to see how they do this weekend. If you want to follow the games this weekend, you can listen to the games on 1290 Coil in Omaha or online on the Varsity Network app. Mike Valancourt and Terry Leahy will have the call as usual on those games. If you want to watch the games, and Jason's going to be a little disappointed to hear this, but the CCHA games this season are on Midcoast Sports Plus. For the last few seasons, they had been on Flow Sports, which Jason decried Flow Sports in the past, but Jason finally got a subscription to Flow Sports, so he was probably thinking, great, I can watch these games up at Mankato. I've got a subscription, but Jason, you can't because they are on Midcoast Sports Plus exclusively this season. And that service is $24.99 per month or $129.99 per year. I see the look on your face, Jason. I'm with you. There's part of me, I just want one centralized location like ESPN Plus for all of the college hockey conferences and college hockey games.
I just don't see. I mean, I couldn't come up with justifying $20 for Flow Sports just to watch one series against Alaska in the past seasons. And so no, it's $25 just to watch one series against Mankato. It's yeah, one source to rule them all for sports would be good, or at least like narrow it down to something reasonable of like, here's all your hockey. Because honestly, like a lot of times I look at the flow one going, I don't need any of this other stuff. All I watch is hockey. And then the thing for me that made the jump was because, they added all the AHL games. So I'm like, okay, well, I liked watching the AHL and had the AHL subscription before anyway. So it makes sense that I would just come over because you got that stuff. So yeah, it just like I wish college hockey would just do like one subscription service for like all of college hockey. That alone would make this a ton better.
Loyal and longtime fans of the podcast will remember when UNO went and played in Alaska, and it was on Flow Sports, and I was giving Jason crap because he did not want to pay to watch the games that weekend. So yeah. Anyway, Midcoast Sports Plus, if you're interested in signing up for another streaming service, Jason. And of course, be sure to follow Mavpuck.com on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find links to all of our social channels on Mavpuck.com, as well as back episodes of this podcast. But until next time, Jason, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.